ought to know. Men's radio. The place where men and women really speak. Oh man, what a show. It's men's radio. This crazy show is on 3 times a week. Now Russ and Phil are there to help with all your cares. We laugh, we cry, we talk like grown-ups do. But if you're sad and low, it won't cost you no dough. Men's radio, that's the place for you. With Russ Kane and Phil Dave.
And bang, just like that, it's Wednesday. Hello.
It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday by now. Let's go straight up to Edinburgh. Interesting way to hand in your resignation, dear boy, nonetheless. Edinburgh, hello, gents. Hello, Veronica Curran. As you can tell...
Hang on, I don't remember handing in my resignation. What happened? What did I do wrong?
That was a capital radio joke. You'd have to be there to understand it. Still, this voice still sends shivers of terror into anyone, dear boy, anyone who's listening. Chrissy Hunt. Oh no! First Christmas thing. Go on, read it out. Go on. I can't bear. No, I can't.
Gracious me, Chrissy. Right, hi boys. Made 2 Christmas cakes. One for my elderly friend in the village.
That's sweet.
Can't cook, so do a lot for him. And one for Mike. What are you going to have, Chrissy?
I think she's having gruel.
There you go, that makes it feel more like...
Can you imagine what Can you imagine what Phil Dave would be like on drugs? This is him, and he doesn't even take aspirin. Can you imagine what that would be like? It would be horrendous.
If people don't believe me, the most adventurous I've ever got is Nurofen Plus. I won't touch anything.
I know you. Ramsey says, hi there. I hope Russ's voice is okay. No, it's not crap. If he sounds like Barry White, we'll have to call him the Walrus of Love. Yeah, I could do without that. Thank you very much. I got to say, this is now nearly 2 weeks of this nonsense, and I am cheesed off with it because I'm very frustrated. I'm very frustrated with it. I just don't feel any better. It's not a cold. It's not COVID because I keep testing. But I actually, as the day's progressing, I feel less and less. That's the voice that really scared Neil Fox from what I've heard. Ian Foreman, I think you're right. Interesting way to hand in your resignation as well, dear boy. But I'm sure your next employers will be glad of your services. It's a long story. We can't go into it, really. Got a very, very special guest, young Phil. Well, now, because you're only 35, was Thunderbirds and anything, did any of that form any part of your childhood? Or
it's really funny. I took a long time to get into Thunderbirds because I felt that when I was the right age to start watching it, I didn't get it. I didn't really like it very much. So I waited a couple of years. So what would you say Thunderbirds is supposed to appeal what? To sort of those who are about 5 and up, maybe?
Well, 5 and up and me. Yeah, 5 and up and me, I think.
I think I didn't really get into it probably till I was about 8. It took me quite a few years to really like Thunderbirds. But absolutely, I never understood Captain Scarlet. I'm sorry.
Captain Scarlet was a bit freaky because he was dead. I never got that. The premise of the hero, that he was actually dead, therefore he was invincible. So what was that? Was he like the first TV zombie or what?
Yeah, no, I really didn't get that. And Stingray as well wasn't really my thing.
I love Stingray. Stingray. As I was publicizing the show today, I wrote, anything can happen in the next half hour.
Yeah, no, so it just didn't happen for me. But honestly, Thunderbirds, eventually when I was a bit late to the party, but when I got there, absolutely loved it. Still do. I hate what they have done to it now because, like so many things, it's been computerized. It is magic behind it.
Ramsey's saying, I loved Thunderbirds and got my kids into it. I have all the episodes on Blu-ray. Get you, Mr. Masalam.
I don't mean to be rude. Isn't it a bit of a waste having them on Blu-ray? Because Blu-ray, by definition, is supposed to be high definition. Well, Thunderbirds would never have been shot in high definition.
Facebook user, they demolished the AP, what was that, Associated Pictures studios in Slough, where these great and pioneering shows were made, typical of the lack of appreciation for our important pop culture. Facebook user, you're absolutely damn right.
Well, I hate to say it goes one step further. It's the same way to me when the BBC decided to get rid of Television Centre. I just think,
come on.
Absolute abomination that they've done that.
absolutely, bloody outrageous.
And then
Outrageous.
to top it all off, whilst they were clearing out Television Centre, some of the archives, as far as I understand, and I don't know this for definite, but my understanding was some of the archives were literally just chucked in the skip. So God knows what the programs were that were thrown away.
It doesn't matter because it's our money. They don't care. It's our money. Veronica Cullen says,
because they've got a bit of apparently BBC have got a bit of reputation for getting rid of stuff they shouldn't have done. Do you know who came to
you think?
You know who came to the rescue a couple of times, apparently? None other than the great Bob Monkhouse, because he was so meticulous with the way that he would record programs. It would not believe. I was watching this fascinating documentary.
Oh, it's a brilliant documentary. You're right. It's great.
And where he literally had sheds, a massive shed or two in his garden, full, absolutely full shelf, wall to, floor to ceiling, wall to wall of shelves of VHS that he had meticulously programmed. And apparently what he would do is he would have several video players all set to different times at the same time, just to make sure he didn't miss channels. And he had a whole massive archive.
It was huge. Absolutely huge. Rob Hunt, UFO was the best. Ooh, okay. Controversy. Facebook user, I still love Thunderbirds. Yes, Phil, Dave. They've ruined it with CGI. That's Steve in Lower Stoke. Oh, hi, Steve.
Steve, I hear what you're saying. I agree. CGI,
and Veronica,
all for computerizing things, but not that.
Yeah, I'm getting a slight echo here, mister. Hi, Sen. Veronica, loved it growing up. My son then got into it. Still have Tracy Island. Now, the reason I wanted Dee Anderson on the show. Dee Anderson is the daughter. She's a mate of mine. And she's the daughter of Jerry and Sylvia Anderson. And we're not here. And she won't be coming on later to talk about Thunderbirds and all of that. She has a very, very real problem. And when I read about that, I contacted her immediately and I said, you should come onto the show so we can give it publicity, give it airtime, because it's important. And why is it important? It's about bullying.
Oh.
It's about bullying. And bullying is something that Phil and I rail against, something that I know resonates with our listeners and our viewers all over the world here. And it doesn't just mean school bullying. You can have corporate bullying. And Dee's story is not a good one. It's gone all the way to the House of Commons. Questions have been asked in the House of Commons about this particular situation. I'm not going to say any more because it all comes out in the interview. Sue Sleet up in Fife in Scotland. Hi, guys. Could you... Oh, no, you're busy.
No, all for it.
He's ordering lunch. It's okay.
Yes. Hi, guys. Dad used to be part of the ITC. Is that... We're here to ITC, you don't get away with it. I'm sure it is.
Just move on. That wasn't a good job. Just move on. Keep moving. Keep talking. For Christ's sake. Keep talking. Come on.
Which shipped stuff for ATV. Oh my God! Next year, go back for the rest of the alphabet and had permission.
Oh, that was rediffusion, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, what's wrong with you? And had permission to bring.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I've been here for nearly 3 weeks.
How can you tell the difference between ATV and rediffusion and stuff like that? Unbelievable, right? No idea. Anyway, and had permission to bring back. Can I just say, my time was just the tail end of Thames TV and the beginning of Carlton. But anyway, right, and had permission to bring back some of the puppets home. Oh wow!
Oh my God! Oh no, you're joking me.
Oh my God! Including Thunderbirds as the puppeteer for my birthday party.
This is so random.
Oh my God, Sue! That's just
Sue Sleep. That is just phenomenal. Let's go to East Croydon. We're halfway up a ladder.
Who's being optimistic today? He says, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen." That's good.
Yeah, well, not in my home, it ain't. Ramsey says, "I know that Sylvia and Jerry Addison worked closely as much of AP's work, but they were divorced later. They were divorced. It was a very nasty divorce as well. And yes, the Blu-ray edition is much clearer than the DVD versions. The episodes were shot on 35mm film. Luke Grade allowed them to spend big." We will be discussing Lou Grade's particular role in this interview with Dee.
I'm delighted to say it makes the grade.
Sorry, is that the sound of tumbleweed just coming through your studio?
Distinctly possible. Now listen, we need to tell you something, okay?
Yes, we do. Margaret Chris.
Oh, hi, Mags. 27 days.
Hang on, what do you mean, hi, Mags? She a pal of yours?
She's virtually my aunt. She's my mom's oldest friend.
20, and she's 27 years old today. Wow, your mum's pitching it out there. Oh, 27 degrees. Sorry, Margaret.
That's got to be lucky for you, Mags. She likes the number 27.
Does she? Where is she?
Cyprus, sadly. I mean, it's good for her, but I'm sad.
Damn right. Cyprus. The only problem if you're in Cyprus, you could run into San Monroe. That would just ruin your day.
Possibly. It's northern Cyprus, so distinctly possible.
It could be possible. It's probably the size of Brent Cross Shopping Centre. I don't know. I've never been there.
Northern Cyprus is really, really nice.
Is it big? Is it lovely? They say it's lovely. I've never been. I actually do. I would quite like that.
Enough, the only time I went to sort of southern Cyprus was literally just to get to the airport to then drive straight through to visit them. But to visit
the Chris's. You went to visit Margaret Chris. Did they know you were coming, or did they just see you coming up the garden drive and went, "Oh Christ, look who's here"? Oh, for God's sake, who gave him the address? 33 the High Street, Cyprus, Halloumi Avenue. Or something.
Yes, right. No. Anyway, so Mags and also Henry, who is her husband, who went together.
Well, we're not going to go through the entire genealogical tree here. Paul Carroll said,
"These things are important. I'm giving you a bit of context. What's wrong
to you?"
Oh, for goodness sake. Anyway, right.
Paul Carroll said, "I love
27 degrees here. I can tell you, it's quite cold today."
Can you hear me, or are you just on drugs again?
Just won't shut up and let me finish.
Well, it was very boring.
Unbelievable.
Very dull, to be honest with you.
Can I finish saying what I was going to say beforehand? It's very important today, by the way. The interview you're about to hear is pre-recorded, so if we don't read messages, that's why.
Yeah, it is pre-recorded. Thank you, Sen. We'll invite you guys over. Yep. First class flights, obviously. A free halloumi on. Do you put it like a garland like they do in Hawaii, Sen? Do you do that? You get at the top of the plane steps, they just shove halloumi in your pocket.
No, it's a bit like when you get, when you get to Vegas. No, when you get to Vegas and the slot machines greet you at the airport. When you go to Cyprus, you get to there and it's little trays of halloumi just sitting there for temptation.
And what about like dolmades as well? That would be quite cool, wouldn't it? I'd like that, like a string of dolmades, and they put it around your neck.
Maybe. Actually, no. Maybe a string of baklava.
Well, that's going to go. No, that's going to be messy.
Oh yeah,
that's all full of bloody crumbs. You know what you're like? You get one fleck of dust. It's like World War III's bloody broken out.
Oh,
yeah. Hang on. Wait a minute. He's on fire today. A garland of hummus and shrimps. Well, it's beginning to talk my language. Paul Carroll says, "I love
one for yourself, and you just look shellfish."
If I wasn't feeling so ill, I would jump in the car just to punch you. I love the puppet shows, but my favorite was UFO. That's really interesting. It was one of my least. Do you want to read Chrissy Holt's thing, and then we'll get into the D. Anderson? I think you'll find it very interesting, folks. I really do.
Just before we do that, Ramsey says, "I've discovered Yorkshire halloumi. Really nice and less food, Mars."
Hi. Hello. I'm a halloumi. This is the wife.
Well, either that or you say something like, "Hello, me." Chrissy Holt says, "I met lovely Lady Vicky." For God's sake, man, will you stop dying on air? How dare you? All right, Chrissy Holt says, "I met a lovely Lady Vicar yesterday." Was her name Dawn French? Skinny, wearing leggings, jacket collar, and blonde highlights in her hair. Her name was Doreen. Oh, I love the name Doreen. Her name was Doreen. She told us she is organising a music therapy fundraiser to employ a music therapist to go into homes to help people with dementia. Wow, I love that.
That's cool.
She also says that I should be going. I know you sing in a choir, Chrissy, but are you a musician as well? If you are,
she plays guitar, the drums. Her neighbours love her.
Well, she plays guitar and has a saxophonist. Get that? Wow, good work. Cool. We like that.
Yeah. All right. I'm still trying to get over Yorkshire halloumi.
Oh my! I've got the best idea, Chrissy.
Now what's happened?
What?
My dog just fell over.
Oh,
it's absolutely bloody pitiful.
But you know what, Chrissy? I've got a great idea. Why not you and Doreen join us on one of the programs in future? We'd love that.
What?
If Chris,
you want a vicar on the show with you and I?
What? Why not?
Okay.
I've got a lot of time for people of the cloth.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to hear about your tailor now.
Oh,
come on! That was quick. Right.
I mean,
Should we do
right. Should we have? Sorry, couldn't resist. Oh, for heaven's sakes! Right,
to play the thing.
I was to say, if you're going to be busy dying, can we just get on with this interview that you did, please?
Yes, I will. I did it yesterday.
Right, excellent stuff. Well, here's Russ talking to the daughter of Jerry and Sylvia Anderson.
I would rush home every week to watch a show on TV, ITV, I think it was, and this is one of my earliest memories of anything, and it was called Four Feather Falls, and it was about it was set in the Wild West when we were all crazy about westerns, and when we were little tiny kids playing cowboys and everything, and I think it starred Nicholas Parsons, bizarrely, as the voice of the hero. And then I became obsessed with the rest of the series, like Supercar. I was so obsessed with it. I got sent off for a supercar pilot's license, which somewhere I still have. I am licensed to drive and fly supercar, Fireball XL5, and it went on. And then Thunderbirds. This is the stuff of our childhood, and the imagination and the sheer scope and breadth of it was just fantastic. It's the most wonderful legacy. But sometimes we just want stuff not to be tainted, but it gets tainted. And I want to talk about this. It's an important issue, how stuff can change. All of those wonderful programs were created by Jerry and Sylvia Anderson, legends. And it's a great pleasure to introduce someone who's actually a dear friend of mine, but she's not here for that reason. Their daughter, Dee Anderson. Hello, Dee.
Hi, Ross. How are you?
I as you can hear, I've been better, but never mind. This isn't about me. This is all, and I apologize for the hat, but I do look nonsense.
Oh, I love the hat.
Well, you
look great.
She lies like a cheap watch. Right, Dee. Thanks for joining us. What is going on? I saw a post and I thought, hello. This isn't right. I want my pal Dee on the show and to talk about this, because not everybody has a voice, and what's going on.
Right. I'll tell you, Russ, what's going on.
Well, that would be handy.
It would be handy.
Otherwise, this is going to be like Marcel Marceau, isn't it?
Absolutely.
What's the point of
that? Yeah, exactly. Well, basically, about 4 years ago, I found after my mum died. Oh, sorry. Honey,
down chat.
Sorry.
What have you got?
I have got. Hold on.
Let's see.
Sorry.
It's all right. There's nothing like live, is there? This is proper live. It's like a kitchen sink drama. There's an actual kitchen sink here. Who we got? Oh, hello. What is the name of this little character?
Sorry about that.
That's fine. It's a dog. You never have to apologize for a dog. Anyone who knows me knows you never have to apologize for a dog. I'm ridiculous about them. So, who is this little character?
This is Honey.
Honey. Okay.
She's a rescue. She's actually half Pomeranian and half husky.
Oh, bloody hell. Half husky. Oh, they are loud.
Very loud.
And they shed.
Very, very loud.
I love them, but boy, they don't stop shedding. They don't stop going.
Yeah, exactly.
I got to digress for a second. I used to go to a recording studio, and it was called Huskies. And I thought it was a weird name. It's down in the East End, right? More or less. I walked in the first day. I thought it's a strange name for a recording studio, right? Do some work. And in the reception area, which was not big, were 6 huskies. So to get to the reception desk, you had to walk. Now, if you were scared of dogs, this would be your nightmare. I loved it, but boy, you came out and you were just covered in fur. You looked like the abominable snowman. Right, enough of this.
Right.
Enough dog talk. Let's get back to why you're here. Come on.
Yeah. So about after my mum died, she died in 2016, and and Jerry died in 2012. Right. And I was given some paperwork by somebody completely, it wasn't found in their paperwork. And it was a contract with, I'm talking about Jerry and Sylvia like they weren't my parents, for clarity. But,
yeah. It's kind of easier if you make it objective.
Exactly. So Jerry sold the rest of the rights in 75, and my mother always said, "Oh, I wish he hadn't done that." And they had a very bad split. She said otherwise, it would have been a different story because she didn't get any royalties, and apparently neither did he. Although suddenly, in the 90s, Jerry had renegotiated something that was getting paid, and she wasn't. So it was very unfair, and she tried to challenge it with lawyers, but couldn't afford it, and did this about 3 times because we found that paperwork relating to that. And the contract that I found in 75 had her name crossed out. Her name was typed on the contract. It was crossed out. Right. So I thought, this is a bit untoward. There's something dodgy here. So I took it to a lawyer, very good lawyer, who is, a good media lawyer. And I thought, this is going to be expensive. But he looked at it and he said, my God, let me look into this for you. And he's uncovered a much deeper, darker story where the entire, when Lou Gray bought the company from them in 62, it was deliberately undervalued. Now, I can't really talk more about the detail
please don't
of
say
that.
anything which could come up in court. That's the only rule that we have.
Yeah,
don't say anything which is sub judice.
But I can tell you that because that has been cleared by the lawyer, that I can say that it was undervalued. Okay. And the contract in 75 is the smoking gun, really, where her name was crossed out. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and when you say crossed out, normally you'd have to have it initialed, or there'd be some sort of notification. But just like crossed out, like crossed out something on the shopping list. Correct. So all the names were there, and her name was actually crossed out, and somebody initialed it, but she didn't know about it because she had no knowledge of any contract. She knew that Jerry had sort of gone up to Lou Gray and they'd done a deal, and that was all she knew, but she didn't know about this contract. So that, of course, started the whole thing with the lawyer, and the lawyer has now unraveled a lot of stuff. Wow. Now, the thing is, so what we're trying to do now is, obviously, we've got a 400-page dossier of stuff around it. And 400 pages. 400 pages that we've compiled, over 4 years. We have been to ITV once when they promised to put the credits back, and they haven't done that. It's still the Jerry Anderson. Explain that one. So basically, she had the original contract credit saying Jerry and Sylvia Anderson. In some cases, Sylvia and Jerry Anderson. Right. And in a lot of cases, it said that she created the characters, which she did, and she was the creative force because Jerry. But she always said to me, "Never say it was just me. Always say it was the team. It was the two of them and their team." She was very clear about that. So I would never want to say it was just her, but she was the creative entity and came up with all the ideas for the storylines, etc. It kind of has, history has kind of been rewritten, and not a lot of people know that. So in other words, in 20 years' time, her name, if I wasn't doing this, get her recognition, her name would be airbrushed and completely. Even somebody from ITV phoned me and said, "What did your mother actually do? Was it just costumes?" Wow. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so that how unlike television people to actually know. Say that again. Sorry, Russ. I said, how unlike television people to not actually know stuff. Yes, what do you do? Yes. Exactly. God. And also another quite shocking thing I discovered, and that was in her paperwork, was that I think it was ITC or ATV in the 90s had written to her. She wanted to publish a book on her autobiography to put matters right, and they refused to let her publish with the name Thunderbirds in the title. And this letter is very aggressive, saying if she does, they'll destroy all the books. They'll pulp them, in other words. They will pulp them. My God. Wow. And then a couple of years later, Jerry was allowed to have Thunderbirds in the title. So it was very much the old boys network.
That was one of the main it wasn't because of the financial aspects that I wanted to have you as a guest.
Yes.
It was really this imbalance between men and women.
Yeah.
And I think this is just a prime example, putting aside that I know you and I'm a huge fan of the shows and everything.
Yeah.
It's a huge example of the disparity, which, is extraordinary.
Yes.
And let's face it, wrong. It's as simple as that. It's just wrong.
It is wrong. It is wrong. And it is very much, it's very strange. And I'll be absolutely honest. Of course, I have thought about the royalties and the money and
of course. Yeah,
leaving it to my grandchildren, my daughter and my grandchildren, not so much me. But, if I had a choice and they said to me, you can either have the credits back and everything and all her recognition, that's my choice, because that to me is more important than anything, because I feel that for her to have that, to her to be written out of history, and after all her amazing, creation, her brain was just totally creative, for her to be ignored and abused and bullied. We've got the National Bullying Helpline behind this.
You see, that was another thing when I saw when I read that, I thought, well, we talk about bullying a lot.
Yes.
And people always think, oh, it's schoolyard bullying or being bullied in the factory or whatever it might be, or the workplace, or the office. But you don't think of it in this context naturally. But it is bullying. It is kind of legal bulldozering bullying, isn't it?
Well, they've said, the National Bullying Helpline has actually said it's the worst case of bullying and gaslighting in our time, in our lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I've shown them all the stuff.
So, Dee, why was it that your father, Jerry Anderson, was allowed to have Thunderbirds in the title of the book? I mean, just what? What was their sudden change of heart? What did they give as a rationale?
The thing is, he apparently, and this is public because he said this publicly, he renegotiated some sort of a deal with them where they paid him, and he said he was getting quite a lot of money. She didn't. In fact, she was stonewalled all the time by them. And I can't say that I've got the proof of what I'm just about to say, but I'll tell you what somebody's told me, and I believe it.
Do be careful that it's not libelous or slanderous, please.
Okay, I will.
Just
but
be cautious.
I will. But this is this is why I'm saying I can't prove it.
Okay.
But this is what I've been told, and that is that they encouraged their licensees, to undervalue her contribution in the 90s. And I suspect it's because they were paying Jerry and not her, and they didn't want to have to pay her as well if it was a good sum of money. And because I do know that for a fact that Jerry renegotiated the deal with them.
And your parents had split up at this point, hadn't
yes, they split up in they were divorced in the early 80s.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So it is. Do you think, now you're in the media, you've grown up with this all your life. Do you think it has improved, or the situation remains the status quo?
Well, the Writers Guild, for instance, have got a lot of women who have been again stonewalled, and there's still a lot of prejudice about female writers. I don't think it's changed. Yeah, I don't think it's changed that much. Yes.
Well, tell that to Phoebe Waller-Bridge. The woman's everywhere.
She is. Well, there are
everywhere. I think she's doing 20 people's jobs. She
is. But I do feel that no, it hasn't changed that much, Russ. It's still very much a sort of. I think now is the time it's being addressed, but I still think we've got a way to go. I mean, I've written a lot of articles on, women in the boardroom under the glass ceiling, and that is another thing. Females in sort of executive positions is still a challenge. And there's a lot of companies who are really great with that, with diversity.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But there's still a stigma. So it's not equal.
I think there's two things there, Dee, and I'd love your opinion on it. Number one is I think a glass ceiling does still exist. In some places, not everywhere. I mean,
quite.
it's moved on miles. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, of course.
But my experience, and this is the experience of all my female friends who are in business, the notion of a sisterhood is just fantasy. And it's often the case, and this is why I'd like your opinion, that when women get to a position of power, they're dreadful to other women. They behave, and they behave in a way they think men behave, but men actually don't behave that way. I think that, you know, and other women think, oh, this is going to be good, and then they get absolutely shafted.
I think,
they thought they was their mate.
Well, that has happened to me. I mean, actually, I wrote to the head of Carolyn McCall, who's the head of ICV, and I haven't heard back. And I thought that she would actually. This was 3 or 4 years ago, 3 years ago when she joined, whenever she joined, and I've heard nothing back. And I think it does happen that you know, equally people in power, and then they sort of feel threatened. I thought, I don't know what the reason is, but yeah, you're right. I've experienced that as well. So
it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because they always bang on about the sisterhood. I really think it's a myth, to be perfectly honest. I agree. They help each other. Well, I think once they're there, it's like, sod you, I'm here, and you ain't coming up.
Yeah,
I get that. And guys, to a lesser degree, really aren't quite like that. They're really not. But I've had some brilliant female bosses. I mean, they were absolutely great.
Yes, it can work both ways.
And I admired them. I hugely enjoyed working with them. They were excellent leaders, you know, creative as well. Do you, Dee Anderson, understand the impact on somebody like me and people of my generation that your parents and their legacy had? Do you fully appreciate how big a part of our lives it was?
Yes, I do. Well, I suppose when your parents do something, you're kind of, you're part of it.
Oh, we've lost you. We've lost your sound. Oh no, we've lost your sound, Dee. Oh, this is annoying, isn't it? That's a shame. How's that happen? Oh, there we are. I heard something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
I can.
Yes.
So you were saying when your parents are part of something, that's as far as we got.
When your parents are, you know, part of, and you're part of it, it's very difficult to realize the impact. But I mean, as I've got older and people have, like yourself, you know, have told me how much it's impacted on their lives. And actually going through all my mother's paperwork and, you know, after she died, I saw so many letters from all over the world, from kids and whose lives had been changed. And, you know, sometimes they were going through a bad thing with their parents' divorce, or if they were disabled, or, you know, that they were being abused or whatever, that they said that their programs, and they wrote to her saying the programs had really helped them in their childhood. And some of them, sort of grown up to be astronauts.
Oh my God.
Pilots,
I think it inspired a lot of people. It inspired a hell of a lot of people. The interesting thing, Dee, you know, you say when it's your parents, you're going, and I was watching an interview with Jason Bonham, who's a brilliant drummer. Jason Bonham is the son of the legendary Led Zeppelin drummer, John Bonham.
Fantastic.
And Sammy Hagar, who fronted Van Halen after the departure of Diamond David Lee Roth, was asked him, he said, when you eventually played with Led Zeppelin, did you, he said, when I was growing up, it was just Dad's job. You know, it went over my head. I was just like, well, so, you know, it's what Dad does. He drums in some band. And he said, it was only when I was sitting behind the kit on the stage and we started to do the first huge concerts, which were complete, you know, sold out in minutes. He suddenly thought, oh my God, I'm playing with Led Zeppelin. So I mean, that was his dad. So I totally get that. You know, every kid thinks whatever their parents do is completely uncool. They just don't care, even if it's your drumming with Led Zeppelin.
That's the coolest.
That's the coolest thing ever. There's nothing cooler. You couldn't get anything cooler.
No, exactly.
It was. Where did this amazing? Let's talk about your mum for a minute. Where did this incredible imagination come from? Because it was so ahead of its time. I mean, if you just look at Thunderbirds, it was so ahead of its time. You can look at it now and you still think that's great.
Absolutely. That
It
was
hasn't
her.
aged.
No,
But
it
from where did
hasn't.
it come from? Where did she suddenly think, oh no, let's get all these gizmos and fantastic vehicles and wow.
Well, that wasn't her particularly.
Right.
I thought the characters were her, and
Right.
the influence of the storylines, because she was obsessed with Hollywood movies.
Oh.
And so if you look at them, they're structured like very similar, and also she based the characters on certain sort of Hollywood movie stars and
Because Cary
actors.
Grant was one of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, she, as a child, she was always inventing stuff as well. So it stemmed back from that. Yeah, she had a vivid imagination, and she was very creative. She was writing stuff until she died, but of course, it was more difficult for her to get it off the ground because of being female. So
do you know if this won't make you feel any better, but I just want to shine a little light on this.
yes,
The woman that's gone right out of my head, and this is so embarrassing. I've started a story and I can't remember the lady's name. The lady who created Teletubbies.
yes,
And now Teletubbies made tens of millions of pounds
yes,
for the BBC. I mean, tens of millions. It was an international hit. It ran forever.
Yes. It was brilliant.
I got called in. Would I do some voice work? She was making she was a legend, this one.
Yes.
A legend. I'm really embarrassed. I can't remember her name. I apologize. I'm sorry. Put it down.
My mum knew her, actually.
Put it down to my throat. And I got called into Shepperton Studios, where they recorded all the Carry On stuff. And I was so excited to be in the same recording area as that, to do some voices for a new series. And when she went to pitch it, now this is a woman who's already made, with a track record that's impeccable, has made them tens of millions of pounds. And they treated her like she'd come to change the photocopy toner.
Mm-hmm.
I found that I was staggered. We had a long conversation about it. She was a charming woman. And they treated her like, who are you? Well, I created Teletubbies. It's made tens of millions of pounds. Yeah. And apart from that, it's extraordinary, isn't it? I don't understand why people are like that.
No.
The series never saw the light of day, by the way.
No. Really.
So you're not alone. What I'm doing,
not.
It's not like, aren't I clever? I did a voiceover. It's. I've had, I've seen this first.
Yes.
So it's not just you saying it. It's extraordinary.
No, it isn't. And actually, I've got a lot of people contacting me at the moment who it's happened to, similar stonewalling and taking away credits, all the rest of it. So I'm putting that all together, and that's really, it's quite a difficult, it's quite stressful and upsetting, but it's just necessary. To build it, and it's important. I said to my daughter, actually, who's now in her early 30s,
Get away.
I thought that was me, Dan. I thought I was in my early
30s. Yeah, I thought, yes, precisely. Yeah.
But, I said to her,
we all are in our heads, Dee, by the way.
We
we're all
are,
still
darling.
20,
we're all
still 27.
27, 25.
Yeah, and then I try and get out of bed and I go, Jesus Christ, what the...
Exactly.
I look in the mirror and I go, hi, Dad. Oh, I hate it. No, you're very sweet. I rail against it. In terms of your mental health, all right, and if you don't answer it, don't answer it. But in terms of your mental health, this has not been great, has it? I don't mean you've got a mental health problems, but I mean it affects you.
Oh, big time. I mean, I was saying to a friend of mine this morning, I'm very anxious. It has totally affected my mental health. But I said to this person, I said, look, but I'm not going to take any medication at the moment because I'm functioning. Yes. But I'm not going to say it hasn't affected me. It's
Are you angry? Is it anger? Is it frustration?
Frustration that nobody's really owning up. Yeah. Frustration and yes, I'm very angry about it. Because the extent of it, I mean, I didn't know how many times my mother had tried to challenge this, but couldn't afford to do it.
Yeah.
She'd started with
It's bloody
solicitors.
expensive. These
Yeah,
things
very.
are very expensive. And when you go up against the big guns, they go, yeah, bring it
Yeah.
on. We've got a bottomless war chest. You've got 3 and
Absolutely.
6. You're going to
That's
get nowhere
right.
with us.
And that's how I'm being treated at the moment, with them saying to me, well, you shouldn't be going after us. You should be going after the Jerry Anderson estate. Well, at least they're saying there's something to fight. So I thought
Well,
that was
there you
quite.
go. There
I
you
thought that
go.
was quite progress that they said that the
There
other
you
day,
go.
yesterday.
How do you see that? How do you see this? If you could look into your crystal ball, how do you see this playing out? What do you think?
I think that so many people are now coming behind us. It's building into such an enormous, an enormous kind of
It's
juggernaut.
it's in many ways, putting aside that it's you, right, and a fantastic legacy which you want to protect, and
Yeah.
it's a cause célèbre, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think in many ways it is. It's something you can get behind because it has much wider. I do apologize for my throat. It's much wider ramifications. Just Dee Anderson standing on the sidelines, tapping her foot, saying, "This isn't fair." I mean, that's not what it's about.
No, it isn't
at all.
No, we've got, as I said, the National Bullying Helpline. We're going to Parliament. The question in the House being picked up by Rees-Mogg, and about recognition for females in the creative industries.
How did you do that? Seriously, because people go, I've got a situation. How can I progress it? So
Dr. Lisa Cameron I met, and I explained it to her. She's been on television a lot, actually, about bullying and with MPs, and she just thought it was appalling and wanted to get it as a question in the House. So I went to Parliament with my lawyer. She raised the question in the House a few weeks ago. Rees-Mogg jumped on it and said, of course, Sylvia Anderson must be recognised because she, brought so much happiness to children across the world.
Boom.
And
there you go.
Yeah, and he said there must be an adjournment debate, which means it's going to be at the end of the day in Parliament, which means people can be there. I will be there, and I think that's a very powerful thing. And it gives us, it gives us strength and kudos, and also it gives it's now recognised properly. This thing that I'm doing now, and as I said, the National Bullying Helpline. A lot of people are coming out, and big organisations, and I can confirm which ones to you quite soon, Russ. But some very big people are coming behind this. And so it's not just me.
It's not just you. It goes back to what my question about 10 minutes ago is the influence and impact and joy that your parents' shows gave to millions of people cannot be underestimated.
No.
It's just huge. It's part of my DNA. So much so. Sam Kane, Linda Lusardi, obviously.
Of course.
You know them. They're lovely, right?
They're lovely.
And so they're first of all, like the best looking couple on the planet. They're the most gorgeous kids you've ever seen in your life. They're all talented and they're all nice. I hate them. I'll be honest. They get on my bloody nerves.
They get on my nerves.
Yeah, I can't bear it.
She looks about
28.
She looks about 12.
And he's too handsome. So I loathe them both. And forever, right?
They're gorgeous.
And Sam said Sam's got a radio show on another station, and he said, "Oh, we'd love you to do your top picks, and then we're going to talk about why." And you're going to be very cross with me. I threw out. I could have had sort of 8 or 10 Beatles songs. It was 10 songs. I could have had 10 Beatles. I took out the Beatles songs because I love the Beatles anyway, and I put in the theme tune from Thunderbirds.
Love that.
I did.
Love that.
I took out "Come Together." I thought it was one of my favorite Beatles songs, and I put in "No, Sam." I want the I want the theme tune for Thunderbirds. So seriously, I know that's in my.
Did you know how that came about, Russ?
Absolutely no idea. No, I don't.
Barry Gray was just. I mean, I remember him as a kid. He was just a lovely, lovely man. And Jerry and Sylvia, Jerry liked the Dam Busters music. My mother liked Hawaii 5-0. So that was the note. They said, do a combination of those two, which he did.
Oh, my God. when you think about it now, when you dissect it, that's it, isn't it? The
Yeah.
theme from the you're not going to believe this.
Mm-hmm.
One of my top 10 tunes, guess what?
Dam
The Dam
Busters.
Busters. The Dam Busters.
Beautiful.
I've got everything from Kiss, Van Halen, everything you can imagine. Sinatra. It's quite an eclectic.
Sinatra. My mum used to love Sinatra. I love Sinatra.
Who doesn't love Sinatra? And of course, let's not forget you sing. I went along to see you. It was great.
Yes.
I love that show. It was a very good show. But you embarrassed
you.
by calling me out, which
I did. I did. You were sitting in the front.
Yeah, well, yeah. I could. They said sit here. I went, no. Like sitting at the back. I go, no, sit at the front. No,
that was fun, wasn't it?
It was fun. You were very, very good. As another string to your bow. Will you come back and keep us posted?
Yes, please. Nice. I'd love to. Thank you.
No, you got a conduit here. As long as we keep it within the sub judice and can't
of
be
course.
Now, I've got one final very big question.
Yes.
That I need to ask you, and it's quite personal. What was the deal with Marina in Stingray? What the hell was up with her?
You mean the fact she couldn't speak?
Well, she couldn't speak, and she just swam everywhere and didn't seem to need a snorkel. I mean, what was going on? What was going on there? Who was she?
Oh, actually, somebody sent me something very recently that that told that story, and she had originally been able to speak. For next time, my darling, for next time, I will tell you all.
Oh, yes. She's so showbiz. Look at that. She's left us on a cliffhanger. Dee Anderson, all strength to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I hope it all goes well. Fingers crossed. It's a battle, but it's a battle you can win. All right.
Thank you.
Lots of love. Bye.
And you, darling. Thank you.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. Good Lord.
What do you think?
Said that interview, however lovely Dee Anderson is and was in that interview, was a producer's nightmare. I should sort of say, as for several disclaimer purposes, that there were several organizations mentioned with accusations hurled all over the flipping shop who were not here to answer for themselves. And naturally, if any of them mentioned in that interview want the chance to reply, they are most welcome. And we humbly apologize in advance. Anyway.
And I did preface it by saying that she had to stay within, of course, any rules of libel or slander.
But alas, didn't seem to know what those rules were. But all the same, it was an interesting chat in between that. So there you have it. But yes, so it is. I suppose that the bottom line of that was that it's about individuals flexing their muscles and picking on the smaller person, allegedly. And I get it. I understand sort of why that you sort of feel powerless. No matter how many times we hear about all of these different small fish that have been consumed by the big fish, we've heard loads of examples from it. You only have to look at what happened on a really serious level with, say, the Jimmy Savile cases. That they were terrified to speak out against him because they knew there was no way they could win against him. All of his victims just had to stay quiet. And that's
can I ask you a question? It's a serious question. I'd really like your view, and I'd like everyone else's view as well. Steve Coogan is portraying Savile, who was a disgusting human being on so many levels, right? Unremittingly horrible, and had been for decades. His portraying it on a TV show. Do we want to see it?
You talking personally, or do you think it's?
No, I'm asking like you. Would you want to watch that out of fascination, or do you think we shouldn't be making programs like that because we know what a monster he is?
It depends what it's being made for. If it's being made in the name of entertainment alone, then no. If it's being made to highlight some of the things he did so that people who have gone through that realize that they're not alone and actually there is light at the end of the tunnel for them, well, then yes, they should make it. Would I watch it personally? I don't think so. I don't have a great deal of interest in it, if I'm honest.
Did you watch the one about Dennis Nielsen?
No, I didn't personally, no.
You see, I watched that, and my partner refused to watch that. And I understood her viewpoint. It was that she wouldn't watch it because she said, I do not want to watch anything which gives any publicity. And it's for entertainment. We know what Nielsen did. We know how many people he murdered. We know what another monster he was. Why do we want to see that? Because it's really entertainment. It's not going to tell us really that much new. It was a brilliant series. I have to say, it was absolutely brilliant.
It's tricky. I don't know how I feel about it because there's something very uncomfortable. For example, do you remember there was actually a few weeks back, probably a few months ago now, to be honest with you, I don't even remember what it was. You know what time's like. It sort of was a bit of a blur. But I was telling you that I'd watched a film, the name of which has completely escaped me now, which was inspired by a scandal within the Catholic Church about the systematic abuse of young boys in a care home.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the film because it had quite a high star rating, very good write-up, blah, blah, blah. But one thing it didn't warn you is how, frankly, quite graphic it was going to be. And, it was pretty grim in parts. And I thought, number one, why am I watching this? This is making me very uncomfortable. And if I'm honest, actually making me quite upset as well. Didn't like it at all because all that was going through my mind was, my young nephews or what have you, and cousins and stuff like that. And okay, we're not Catholic, but doesn't mean it can't happen. And I then thought to myself, no, you've got the benefits of being able to get your remote control and put this into standby, turn it off and pretend it's not happening. But it does happen. People go through it. They live with it. And they have to deal with it sometimes for the rest of their lives. And I'm complaining because I might want to turn off a film.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought to myself, no, get on with it. Watch it. Educate yourself, damn it. Stop living a life in cotton wool.
So loads of people coming on about the Savile thing, which I don't really want to get into too deeply because it's just repulsive. Savile was very clever in siding up the establishment, became good friends with Prince Charles, Mrs. Thatcher. Someone should look to his background a bit better. They knew. Ramsay, it wasn't a surprise. And Ramsay then says, people knew. Well, everybody knew. But those complaining were told to shut up or ignored. John Lydon, it's Johnny Rotten, he said everything in the 70s and the BBC banned him for a while. It's absolutely true. It's a classic interview with John Lydon, Johnny Rotten, and he was then banned for quite a long time for daring. It's all about being a cash cow, isn't it? It's all about being a
all over
cash
the
cow.
place. I mean, because if you think, to me, the most recent example of something like that, and what I'm saying is not old news. It is not something that has been covered up as such. It's not even something that is not common knowledge. It's actually fact that Jeremy Clarkson was dismissed from the BBC for punching a producer. He has obviously since apologized to said producer, but the producer has been compensated, is the word.
He got over 100 grand.
Yeah, the producer's been compensated, but you call that compensation, I call it something else. And then as a result of it, he goes from the BBC and then lands the most phenomenal deal with Amazon. Appears on ITV quite a lot. And you just think to yourself, that's the reward he has got for physically abusing somebody. Let me just put it to you this way. If someone punched somebody else, right, you would expect what? Yeah. GBH charges at the very least? Why? Why is it okay? So I'm not happy about it.
You got to put it. Are you not? Well, I'm a huge Jeremy Clarkson fan. No, he shouldn't have punched the producer. He lashed out. The producer just happened to be there. I'm not defending it. Violence is never a good thing. I'm not pretending that violence is a good thing. Phil and I, we've talked about this before. You and I are on opposite sides of the fence because I'm a huge Clarkson fan. I loved him on Top Gear. I love him on the Amazon series that he does with the other boys.
Clarkson's
I love Drive Time, which is a fantastic little snippets. It's really interesting, and his farming program is a sensation. And he's done more for farmers in one series than the last 20 years of legislation. So, and that's a fact. So, yeah, the circumstances under which he punched the producer, he didn't have a brawl. He just lashed out. It was unacceptable. It was wrong, but
Anyway, like I said, it's just one example, and obviously I realise that anyone we mention isn't here to answer for themselves. It's inexcusable. I'm sorry, it just whatever way you look at it, what I've said is common knowledge. That's not something that's been revealed in confidence. That's not anything that isn't already out there.
It's all in public domain. It's in the public domain. And much of what Dee was saying was in the public domain as well. Susie says, could you read this? Because my throat is about to completely pack up.
Susie says, I don't think programs about people should be made. Having worked with abused children, just knowing it's okay, I have no idea what that says, but anyway,
just knowing it's on, just knowing that the show is on.
Just knowing, fine, okay, okay, just knowing it's on can actually re-traumatize them, whether they had been that person. Whether they had been that person was their blimey, Sue.
Whether the person had been Sue, get a grip, girl. Whether that person had been their perpetrator,
whether or not the person was the perpetrator.
I think we get the plot. Anyway. I think we get the plot. I mean, the Dennis Nielsen thing with that actor who's oh God's sake, it was Doctor Who. Come on, help me out. Brilliant. Scottish actor. The actor who played Dennis Nielsen.
You mean
Doctor Who? David Tennant.
Yes, David Tennant.
Yeah, David Tennant. It was extraordinary to watch. It was brilliantly made and extraordinary to watch. But I was thinking, as I was watching it, I watched it on my own. I thought, why am I watching it? Because I know the story. Am I watching it for gratification? Is it just entertainment? Hard to say. There we are.
It is tricky.
You're very quiet today.
I am very quiet today. You're right. There's no getting away from it. It's a bit of a wee bit of a rough time in the Dave household at the moment. So
oh gosh,
but don't worry about it.
You should have phoned me beforehand. Has your mother said, I'm sorry, Phil, it's only going to be 2 courses per meal. I'm not doing 3, and you've taken it badly.
You caught me. Sorry.
I think that's what it is.
Someone tries to deprive me of food. I take it very badly.
Is it that she said to you, Phil, I'm sorry, I think 17 cheeses on the cheese board is extravagant. I'm bringing it down to 10, and you threw a hissy fit.
Yeah. You caught me. What can I tell you? Sorry. It's all true. Terrible. Anyway, yes. So I apologize. No, you're quite right if I seem distracted, but it's frankly because I am. So there you have it.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, at least thank God we're not doing a live show, because that would be...
No, terrible. Absolutely.
That would be ridiculous. Here we go. I'm shocked. All right, let's cut you some slack.
Veronica, I'm shocked by many parents' lack of understanding of technology. Monitoring their children's mobiles, gaming is so vital, frightening as stranger danger doesn't apply with Ethernet. Do you know what, Veronica? I was having this conversation with a colleague of mine only this morning, and I said, I do not understand it. Why, as a general rule of thumb, there is not a blanket ban on anyone under the age of 18. No exception. Anyone under the age of 18, totally and utterly barred from social media of any description. It is
going to enforce that.
Very simple. As soon as you sign up for it, you have to give credit card details. That really couldn't be. It's the easiest thing ever. And if it doesn't correlate,
you know what they'd say. That's a genius idea.
If it doesn't correlate with the person's card details, and to anyone, by the way, who says I don't have a credit card, fine, I know that, but debit card, whatever it is, you can't have a bank account under the age of 18 unless it's a specialist one. And if it's a specialist one, it comes up on the accounts anyway, so they'd know. They put that card detail in. Anyone under the age of 18 banned from social media. It's the most influential time in teenage years, and it's frankly ruining. It just swathes of generations of teenagers. It's unreal.
And in the last minute, Meta.
What about it?
Good thing, bad thing, a load of old nonsense, rebranding. What is it?
No, it's absolutely flipping doomed. If you thought there wasn't a beastie crisis before, you ain't seen nothing yet. Absolutely ain't seen nothing. You've just given people carte blanche to sit on their sofa indefinitely.
Never leave home.
Leave the house, in inverted commas. It's hell. It's going to be absolutely.
It's extraordinary. Anyway. It's a vision of the future, and I looked at it. We can talk about it on Friday. It's the new version of Facebook. It's where Facebook is going. It's called Meta, Meta, which interestingly in Hebrew means death.
True, it does. Only for a woman though, because you've got male and female vowels. So
No, I didn't. I didn't know. I don't speak it. All right, that's it. Thank you. Thank you for putting up with my throat. Thank you for putting up with Phil, who's not 100% today. And we wish his folks well because they're lovely, lovely people. We'll see you Friday at 12 o'clock. Try not to be late and stay out of trouble.